What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Good to see you, gang. Welcome to a Wednesday show. Happy hump day. Hopefully your early slates are going well. If you were around for that 12:35 start, we had projections up on the site for hitters and pitchers. Just the usual, early slate bonus stuff. Just a little projections. No big rankings update or anything like that. But had some Tigers go off a little bit. We caught a couple home runs from the Tigers that were projected out pretty well. Had a big logjam of starters that we do not have on this 5-game slate this evening to work with. Yankees are currently at 2-1 in the bottom of the 5th. Gav Williams took a no-hitter into the 9th for the Guardians. Almost no-hit the Mets. Juan Soto broke it up at the top of the 9th, or the bottom of the 9th, with a home run. Gav Williams threw 126 pitches. I strongly object to that, especially for a kid who's been kind of injury-prone on his way up. High-end kid. That's the most pitches anybody's thrown in a couple of seasons. Not great. Chasing individual glory. This is not even a perfect game. It was a no-hitter. We've had a lot of those. Ooh, tough call at first base. Let's see that one again. Ezekiel Duran looks like he beat it out. He was called safe. Let's see. Dribbler up the third baseline, Rodon off the mound. Yeah, he was safe. Beat it clean. Yeah, he beat it by like a step and a half. Hopefully your days are going well. Hopefully your early slates went well. Hopefully the work day isn't too difficult out there. Happy hump day back to you, Anthony Taylor. Ducking is here. Cujo's here. Andy's here. Some other folks kicking around out there, I'm sure. Probably some more pile in as we carry our way through this 5-game slate that we've got to talk about. It is pretty sparse pitching-wise. That's not fair. We've got 2 tremendous options at the top. Excuse me. In a up and down, admittedly, Spencer Strider, and then George Kirby against the White Sox. 2 kind of obvious spots. Everything else on this board is pretty shaky at best. Going to be a fun one. Let's take a look at the run board to get us started here. Apologies for the empty space. That's where the early slates were. I just took them out without moving everything up. It's just artificial, superficial. We can do that. So we start things out with the Athletics and the Nationals. It's Jeffrey Springs. It's Cade Cavalli. Cavalli's first appearance in the show since 2022. He made 1 start back then. He was only 23 at the time, threw 4 1/3, but has not been good in AAA, mostly AAA this year. 15 starts at that level, 65 innings as a 26-year-old. Seems like a probable target for bats. Jeffrey Springs has been actually pretty decent in a recent run of starts. Outside of 3 starts back, wasn't very good. But the 8 starts or so around that have been pretty solid. Seems like a good spot for him. Nats not hitting lefties like they have in years past. James Wood also kind of scuffling for the last little bit. Michael Wacha's on the bump for the Royals. 4.62 implied total for the Athletics and a just under 4 implied total on the National side of that. Also just kind of speaks to that pitching matchup. Michael Wacha for the Royals going up against the Red Sox at Fenway. Red Sox on a roll. One of the hottest teams in baseball. Hottest team in baseball. Dustin May making his Red Sox debut. Picked up at the deadline. High-end young pitcher. Kind of up and down results-wise. Also a lot of short starts with Los Angeles. We've seen the Red Sox be a little bit more cavalier about innings on starters. But I would imagine that the management here is going to continue. So maybe a little bit of a leash on Dustin May. Wacha, on the other hand, could go out there. He went 8 in his last game. He's on a run of 4 straight starts with exactly 1 earned run allowed. 3 of those 4, exactly 3 hits allowed. The other one, 2 hits allowed. 5 strikeouts in 3 out of the 4. 1 strikeout in the other one. but 4 tremendous starts in a row against the Blue Jays, the Guardians, Miami, and the Mets. 4 pretty not bad to good teams. A couple of bumpy ones in a row before that. But overall, a capable starter and a guy that we're definitely going to need on this slate. Just an ugly spot going up against the Sox at home with a pretty solid total on the board. I do think the Royals can definitely get there against May as well. Low strikeout team, a lot of contact in that lineup. There's enough talent there. Jose Quintana on the mound for the Brewers going up against the diminished Braves, and then the Braves answering back with Spencer Strider, obviously one of the top options on the day, highest strikeout option on the day with a bullet. 358 implied total for the Brewers stands on its own. Just over a 4 implied total for the Braves is kind of interesting with Quintana on the mound. Not exactly a high-end pitcher, but capable enough veteran guy, gets through 6 innings and a couple of runs for a fair price. It's in the cards. It just depends on what the strikeouts are going to look like. Not exactly a premium strikeout pitcher these days. Peak for this season so far is 6. He's done that twice. Did it actually twice in a row on April 27th and May 3rd. Since then, he struck out 5 guys twice, and every other game has been below that. Pretty low end strikeout wise. But again, short slate like this. Padres and the Diamondbacks, the highest total overall in Vegas at 9.5 runs. 5.21 on the Padres side of that is the highest overall total. They're going against Anthony DeSclafani, who is most likely not fully stretched out. 2 1/3 in a bulk relief appearance before that, 3 innings in a couple times. So I think 5 is reasonable, but I don't think we're getting any more than that, and he's probably not going to get to the 5th just on quality. Pod's looking pretty good against. And then Nestor Cortez making his return to the mound. He's pitched a couple rehab starts in the minors, most recently on the 24th. Got to 5 2/3 and 5 1/3 in his 2 most recent rehab starts. So I think there's, if all goes to 5 and change on the board for Nestor, but it's not an easy test beating those Diamondbacks out in the desert. 4.41 implied total for a maybe lesser than it was, but still good Diamondbacks lineup with some cheap pieces in it, I think is fair. It's a really interesting game for some bats in that one. And then we finish off with the White Sox and the Mariners. George Kirby, the pitcher of the day, going up against the White Sox. As frisky as that lineup might be from time to time, George Kirby is tremendous. Definitely think we can fire away shares with him. He's going to be obvious. He's going to be popular, but worthwhile. 2.93 implied total on the Chicago side. Innings, strikeouts, anything you can want on the Kirby end is available. And the Mariners, second highest total on the board at 4.67 implied runs, going up against Jonathan Cannon, who is a target of a pitcher. So, yeah, not a lot of starters to work with. A lot of ugly options kind of in play, but you can see the gigantic dip for one thing from these guys to these guys, and it happens after the second pitcher on the board. Those are just 2 completely different animals up at the top of the board with Strider and Kirby. Either way you want to go, even with Strider being a little bit up and down, the strikeout ceiling is very, very real and tremendous. So absolutely, I think you're going there. The idea that Kirby against the White Sox is cheaper at 92, only slightly more expensive at 99 on DraftKings, definitely on FanDuel, makes him very interesting. But again, he's going to be crazy, crazy popular. So that's the one wrinkle that you have to deal with. In both cases, if either of those guys gives up a couple of runs as compared to the rest of this slate, that does become troubling at those prices. Texas scores. Couple of runs, it looks like. Is there just one? Marcus Semien. I guess it was a fly, sack fly. All right. Looked like there was more action going on than just a runner scoring from third on the sack fly, but 2-2. Rodon doesn't look great today. It looks like downside Rodon. He's thrown 82 pitches. We're into the bottom of the 5th. He's been fine, but just doesn't look totally sharp. So Springs coming in number 3 And again, has pitched fairly effectively lately. You'll note a pretty significant price difference from FanDuel at 87 to 6,800 on DraftKings, which is entirely generous. That Washington lineup, very, very gettable, especially with some of the recent scuffles and some of the numbers against lefties. I think you can take some shots with Springs, especially at that price. The hope on FanDuel would be that he'll be a little bit under-owned for the spot, considering how close in price he is to, say, Kirby, as opposed to some of the options below him on the board. Very low faith in Nestor. 67, 69. The price is right. I don't know how much ceiling he's got for you beyond those numbers right there, if he's going to get to those numbers at all. The thing about Nestor is he keeps opposing hitters off balance when he's going right. He's got a lot of junk. He changes up his arm angle and, does all kinds of funky stuff on the mound. But a lot of that also depends on like him being in full peak form and, able to do those things. So very much a wild card. I left the projection alone. I didn't push it one way or the other, and I'm fine with that. But again, I don't know that there's necessarily ceiling on top of that against a still good Arizona lineup. Waka's probably got a little bit more to give you beyond the median projection than Nestor does at 84 or at 74. And I would say the same thing applies with Dustin May in the next spot, as far as Waka has more to give you than Dustin May as well. May a little bit shaved down by comparison in the raw projection there anyway, but just with the idea that they're probably going to manage those starts. NKC is already low strikeout, fairly decent hit tool. There's some downside there with Dustin May that probably doesn't get erased by a high ceiling potential. Quintana probably is similar to Waka in that he gives you a little bit more potential maybe than both May and Nestor. All those guys I think are fairly in the exact same territory as far as this slate goes, and any one of those guys could completely kill you with a bad start. But I think it does make sense that Waka, Quintana have a little bit more on at the top end. They all share a similar basement and similar medians. Cavalli, 64, 7,000 against that hard-hitting A's team. I don't really see it. We'll take a look at them, but I'm not really getting there. 72-58 for Jonathan Kennan against that Mariners team. No, thank you. And Disclafani, I think we're just getting like 4 innings, maybe 5 against a pretty decent Padres team. 65-55 probably doesn't work outside of maybe a few darts just because they're so cheap at the bottom of the board with Cannon and Disclafani on DraftKings. I don't think you're going down to that territory, especially when you've got 2 of these guys up here at, granted, 1,000 and change more, but still very, very usable. And I don't know that there's all that much to even spend that discount on. So it would depend on what you can buy. And between these guys, it probably would be Cannon, as shaky as that might be. Has this not been on the screen? How long has that not been on the thing? Can you see it now? It was blurry, not gone. When I just pulled it, when I just flipped back from having the spreadsheet in front of my eyes so I could click on it instead of the YouTube screen, the StreamYard screen, it was just gone from my view of what you guys can see. Apologies if that wasn't there. The good news is on this game-by-game breakdown available at rotoscouts, you have access to the screenshots of those. Do you want me to pull the pitching board back up real quick so that you can see what I was talking our way through? All right, so those 2, and then that group of guys, and then these guys are pretty dead down the bottom. As I was saying, all those guys mostly the same. Springs probably stands individually above that four-man group. And then Waka and Quintana probably give you a little more ceiling than those 2 guys. And then these guys are bad options. Interesting lineup for the A's in this first one. We're pulling a 4.62 implied total. Larry says, I thought I was going blind or my TV was messed up. Sorry about that, buddy. Didn't mean to give you the old glaucoma scare there, the old eye test. I guess good news is you're not. You already win the day. Speaking of which, how are these lineups doing? I had a couple chasers. Saw little cashes, but not going to be anything crazy unless something wild happens with the end of this Yankees game. All right, so 462 implied total for the A's going up against Cade Cavalli. As I was saying, it's kind of an interesting lineup with Shea Langler's in the leadoff spot. He's been terrific this season. Had a great game that was yesterday, I want to say. 3 home runs, monster game. 272, 323, 545 overall, a 272 ISO. Peak Shea Langeliers. He's cut a lot of strikeout out of his game. He's down from 27-2 last year, 29-2 the year before, all the way to 18.2% this year. 7.3% walk rate. He's been excellent. 5,000 on DraftKings, one of your more expensive positional options. By contrast, on the other side, Riley Adams is only 2,200 at the position, less than half. But there's a distinct difference between those two bats. That is a tremendous catcher to throw at Cade Cavalli. For 31 on FanDuel, I honestly think they have him pretty underpriced considering the numbers he's put up this year. That would be a fair price for regular version Shea Langeliers from previous seasons. This is a much improved version. Kurtz is just one of the best players in baseball out of the gate. 307 tremendous plate appearances, 23 home runs, tied with Rooker for the team lead. Rooker has 500 plate appearances. Kurtz has 307. And they both have 23 home runs. Kurtz has a 345 ISO over his first 307 plate appearances in the major leagues. He's striking out at nearly a 30% rate, but who cares? The numbers are insane. He's creating runs 82% better than the average player by WRC+, 19.4% barrel, 51.7% hard hit. Going to last week, he was still available in some Yahoo leagues. I don't know what people are doing. I imagine that's just reflective of the percentage of just completely dead leagues that Yahoo might have out there, because I can't imagine people not picking this guy up in those. If he happens to be available in your league, you should have added him by now. Please go do that. Before you leave to go do that, though, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Go check out rotoscouts.com as well. Kurtz is incredible at any price. Brent Rooker at 52.35, honestly, also not highly priced enough going up against this pitcher. 23 homers for him, a 225 ISO. Another guy who's just made tremendous strides again year over year. Excellent option. JJ Bleday mixing it up in the cleanup spot, 3,100, 2,500. A little price break there. It's a guy who's capable of hitting the ball hard. 10 home runs on the season and just 244 plate appearances. A 195 ISO is very solid. Just a 293 xWOBA, limited as far as the barrels are down from 8.3 to 7%. Hard hits are actually up a little bit, but strikeouts are up as well. Can draw a walk. He's not uninteresting at those prices in that spot in the lineup. Soderstrom, just an outfielder on DraftKings, has first base eligibility for a cheap price at $2,800 on FanDuel. $4,200 on DraftKings is also not a bad price. Even with a dip in the overall slash line, maybe the overall his ISO's down at 195, the home run pace definitely waned a little bit as the season went on. But he's hit 19 home runs in his first full season. He's still carrying a 12.7% barrel, 48.1% hard hit. It's an excellent bat to buy, and he's cheap again. So I think we take advantage there in a big, big way against a weak righty here. And then we get Darrell Hernandez, we get Gio Urshela and Max Schumann down toward the bottom of the lineup. Mix and match players all across those guys. But Lawrence Butler hiding in the 7 spot is kind of interesting. 45-29, we can quibble with the 233, 304, 406 slash line, the 172 ISO. Even the xWOBA is underwhelming and not indicative of him necessarily underperforming ability, but he's underperforming what we saw from him last year. He's also, I would argue, underperforming just the premium contact that he's still making. And he has managed to hit 15 home runs, stole 17 bases along the way. He scored 61 runs. If we care about runs, then most of that came out of the leadoff spot. And it's entirely because of the guys behind him. Doesn't have much to do with him, but it happened. So out of those guys down toward the bottom, he's easily the most appealing. I started on the A's lineup. I talked briefly about Cavalli when we ran up the beginning of the show. He made one start back in 2022 through 4 1/3. Appears to have given up a number of runs. Had a 14.54 ERA and a 5.51 xFIP for that game. Since then, made a couple of appearances in 22. Did not pitch in 23 in North American baseball anyway. I don't remember if he was hurt or what it was. Pitched in 2024 somewhat. 7-ish starts. Oh no, that's only 3 starts, in 2024. 8 1/3 is just all spread out. So 3 starts, 8 1/3 innings last year as a 25-year-old. What is the actual story here? Yeah. Injury. All right, there it is. What did he get? Tommy John? Yeah, so it was a 2-year Tommy John recovery. It was a long time. Was a high-end kid at one point, but I mean, this is a do not really know what we're getting kind of a situation. He's made a bunch of starts in AAA. 65 innings this year, 15 starts, fully back. But again, as a 26-year-old, he's pitching to a 6.09 ERA, 4.07 xFIP, which is good, or much better, not good. Way higher than you'd want. 24.7% strikeout, 9.4% walk. 25-1 at AAA. Actually, there was a 1 start in AA. Moderately capable. What is our actual expectation here against a very good athletics team showing a bunch of power? I would really, really limit expectations. And they don't even strike out like they used to. There are some Ks through here for sure, and it's obviously offset at the bottom by that 0. But it's more managed than it used to be. 7,000, if you wanted to throw darts at it over there, I don't think you're getting to your quality start. I don't think you're, even for price, really rivaling the potential of some of the other pitchers on the board. Springs at 68, at 87 on FanDuel, differently priced across sites. Again, has been good for a stretch of starts. 6 innings, 1 earned run in his last one, 7 strikeouts. Did allow a home run in that one, home run in the game before, struck out 5, allowed 2 earned runs on 4 hits over 6 to Houston at Houston. Had a bumpy one against Cleveland out in Ohio. Just went 4 innings, gave up 5 earned runs on 9 hits, struck out 4. 2 home run game allowed over 6 2/3 to Toronto the game before that. 3 earned runs, struck out 5, only the 3 hits. Not a bad start, but also not great. Just an earned run on 6 hits over 6 to Atlanta back on July 8th. So it's been a decent stretch. Overall, he's pitched to a 19.5% strikeout, a 4.0 ERA, but a 4.55 xFIP. These are the flaws that come with Jeffrey Springs being the 3rd best pitcher available. 68, though, is priced correctly, I think, or a little bit cheap probably on DraftKings. More correct on FanDuel, but probably high. The truth is somewhere in between those two, I think. Because he's not a premium strikeout pitcher, but he can find some Ks because an 11% swinging strike rate is pretty decent. He's given up a bunch of home runs. 4.02 is over the line, but it doesn't come on a ton of hard hit. Doesn't come with a ton of exit velo on average. Even the barrel rate is fine. 8.2%, 36.9, 88.3 miles an hour. It's just a lot of fly balls that have happened to get out. It's the home road on that, actually. So 12 of the 21 home runs that he's allowed have come in the 58 and 2/3 innings at home versus 9 home runs allowed over 67 and a third on the road. So there is a little bit of a difference there. Just that bandbox minor league park that they play in out in Sacramento has hurt him a little bit on some of those. That's where, these aren't incredibly hard hit fly balls, but some of them have gotten out of that yard. It's not that he's invulnerable on the road, but he has been more limiting as far as power on the road. You got James Wood still standing out there. Although, overall, you can see just 830 plate appearances for this version of the active roster. Again, not necessarily this lineup, but those guys included. An 82 WRC plus against lefties this year, 21 home runs, a 227, 294, 358 collective slash line, a 131 ISO. Been weak against lefties, which used to be a strength of theirs. James Wood overall has been fine same-handed, actually better, 278, 340, 500 same-handed with a 222 ISO, 131 WRC plus versus 244, 370, 470 with a 226 ISO, 132 WRC plus. So call it a tie. Wood overall has not hit a home run since July 9th. Over that stretch, he is slashing 101, 215, 130 with a 5 WRC plus. No home runs, 4 runs scored, 2 ribbies, 2 stolen bases, 44.3% strikeouts. Hitting a wall a little bit for us here, James Wood. 24 home runs, 14 steals overall. A tremendous season, but it's been a very, very bad month or so, and not necessarily inclined to go in his direction with a sub-4 total, but he's there. CJ Abrams at the top of the lineup at 57.34. His fellow lefty star up here. CJ on the season also succeeding against same-handed pitching, and more so than he is against lefties or against righties outside of the power department. Against lefties, 293, 354, 457, but just a 164 ISO, 128 WRC plus, though. Against righties, 264, 334, 467, a 200 ISO, and a 122 WRC plus. Either way, has been overall 57-34 to face a gettable lefty leg experience. Perfectly fine to go to 14 home runs on the season, 26 steals, 124 WRC plus, and then they just kind of fall off a cliff the rest of the way. Everybody else in the full season in their variety of sample sizes here, at best 1 percentage point below average by WRC plus. That's Josh Bell at a 99. Does have a solid 348 xWOBA, has 13 home runs on the board, has been hitting the ball hard this season and actually finding some results for it. Sub 20% strikeout, double-digit walk rate. There are positive attributes with Josh Bell, but it's been a rough season overall. Nathaniel Lowe had 15 home runs, drove in a bunch of runs early in the season, and is completely cratered overall, down to an 88 WRC plus, still with those 15 home runs. Brady House, mix and match quality, 68 WRC plus. Decent average, but a 274 on base kills you. No power to speak of. Riley Adams has gotten really nothing done this year. 6 home runs in 151 plate appearances, if you want to give him credit for that. A lot of hard hits and barrels in that small sample of batted ball events. 11.4% barrels, 46.8% hard hits. But a 225 on base, a 55 WRC plus, 265 xWOBA under the surface. Robert Hassel hasn't been particularly good. 2 home runs, pretty mediocre slash line or bad slash line, 65 WRC plus. Does have a few decent batted ball events as well if you want to just grab onto something. But another mix and match quality guy right now. And then Jacob Young at the dead min at the bottom of the lineup. 10 stolen bases is his positive attribute. 295 xWOBA over 271 plate appearances. It's just a bad Nationals lineup right now. So I think he can get away with Springs. Probably can on FanDuel as well. I just don't like him at that price. But we're not playing just, the do we like the price game. He's sitting there as a pretty decent option today. 68 on DraftKings is obviously a bargain. You take advantage of that. Again, Cavalli, I don't really have much faith in the ability to get to a high score here. But at 7,000 at 64 on FanDuel, it's there on a very light pitching slate. I would say this goes Athletics bats, Jeffrey Springs, Nationals bats, Cade Cavalli. The sound was bad now? Jesus Christ, what the hell is going on? We're good now? Joker's here. Let me know if the sound is better. I'll continue talking. Noble RD Entertainment's here. Yo, what's going on? It's better now? What, was it just cutting in and out? It's weird. I don't think it was the mic. Was I like just turning my head and speaking the wrong direction? Still 2-2 in that game, by the way. Royals and the Red Sox. 405 implied total on the KC side. 455 for the Bo Sox. They've just been rolling. Roman Anthony on, I don't know if they signed it yet, but was earlier today on the verge of signing an 8-year, 130, I think it was. Essentially buying out all his ARB years. Kid's been good. Delivering on his expectations so far, I would say. Outside of maybe, like I said yesterday, you could quibble with just 2 home runs in 190 plate appearances, a 145 ISO. But has been absolutely crushing baseballs in his batted ball events. Is it better now? You're saying robot-like, was muffled here and there. Let me know if it continues. I don't know. Maybe it's the internet connection is bouncing in and out today. It's not like stormy or anything out though. It would be weird. Plus, I think it's all underground here anyway. But yeah, Roman Anthony up top has, again, as I was saying, has been really hitting the ball hard, delivering on everything else. 400 on base is tremendous, a 133 WRC plus over those 190 chances. Still cost just 4,100 here, 2,900 on the FanDuel side. Really, really affordable way to get into the Red Sox top end. Going up against Michael Wacha, who is a good pitcher, a good veteran pitcher, but very, very gettable. He's pitched to a 3.38 ERA this year, which is very good, but a 4.42 xFIP under the surface. He's not fooling anybody. 18.3% strikeout. There's a lot of contact available, just 6.8% walk. So we're seeing a lot of frequency of contact. Home run for, who is that? Goldie. Love it. Is that a solo? Solo shot for Goldie. 3-2 Yanks. 7th inning. Beautiful. Now we're rolling. 3-2 ball game. Need to start scoring some runs again. So Wacha doesn't give up all that much in terms of home run power. He does give up fly balls, but very good at inducing weak and medium contact. Just 33% hard hits, 87 miles an hour of exit velo allowed this year. Underwhelming by Stuff Plus, point below average according to Stuff Plus, but doesn't need that to get through his innings to have decent starts. More than capable of giving you 6 decent innings here in Fenway. A little bit of bonus potential on top of that. Did go 8 last time out against Toronto. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, he's on a stretch of 4 straight starts where he's allowed exactly 1 run. 3 of those 4, he had 5 strikeouts. 3 of those 4, he allowed 3 hits. The other one, he had allowed 2 hits. And in a different game, he allowed just 1. He had just 1 strikeout. 4 runs, 5 runs, 3 runs in 3 straight starts going backward in time before that stretch. A decent start, but then a 5-run, a 3-run. So there's been bumps in the road. There's no guarantees with Wacha, but he's only 7,400 on DraftKings. He's 84 on FanDuel, and he is one of the more proven, more capable pitchers on this slate. So I think we can get there pretty effectively with him, and we're definitely going to the Red Sox bats against him on the other side of that equation. So a lot of upside in the back and forth there. Dustin May at 72 at 81 across sites. Again, my concern really becomes just the innings and what do the Red Sox end up doing with it. Last time out, pitching for the Dodgers against these Red Sox, 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, faced 22 hitters, struck out 5, allowed a home run. Bumpy start there. Pitched pretty clean the start before that, though. Only 4 2/3, faced 21 hitters, 5 hits, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, no runs. A 7-run game over 4 2/3 prior to that. Did go 7 against the White Sox. At the end of June and into July, he went 6 twice and went 7 against the White Sox, and then had that stretch of 5 or fewer. But overall, just not super reliable for depth. Cleared the 6th a few times, in the run-up to June as well. On a slate like this, I don't think you worry about it quite as much as we otherwise would. But I do think it's a limiting factor as far as his ceiling goes. He's in that group of guys where it's all the medians look the same, but the other two, Waka and Quintana, kind of outpace the other guys. If you're looking at Royals bats against May, fair play there. Yastrzemski at the top of the lineup today instead of Jonathan India, 3,400, 2,600. Nice cheap leadoff option there. That's a capable bat, too. Just 9 home runs, 6 stolen bases this season. A 326 on bases is about what India's been doing anyway. 97 WRC plus has not been playing up to league average overall. But Yaz, just last year, 18 home runs, a 106 WRC plus, a 206 ISO. Season before that, 15 homers, but got on base at a 330 clip, had a 212 ISO and a 112 WRC plus that season. So that's a really interesting guy to stick into the leadoff role here. A solid lefty bat with a little bit of thump in it. You can see double-digit barrels last year, just under a 10% barrel rate the season before with 40+% hard hit rates. Hovering around the hard hit rate number, a little bit down in barrels overall, but has gotten quite cheap, leading off ahead of Bobby Witt, superstar shortstop, for 59 for 36, 16 home runs, 29 steals going up against Dustin May here. I love the upside for Bobby Witt to have a solid day. Those are affordable prices, especially when we're stacking this team because everybody else is cheap to at least affordable. 46 for Michael Garcia, I guess you could call affordable, and everybody else in this lineup is cheap. Vinny at 4,000 at 29 on FanDuel has 19 home runs, 107 WRC plus, hits the ball very, very hard and incredibly consistently. Going up against a pitcher who has a 21.5% strikeout rate, also walks hitters at a 9.5% clip this year, pitching to a 4.85 ERA with a 4.34 xFIP, allowing a fair amount of premium contact, a lot of hard hit, a lot of exit velo. 8.6% barrel, maybe a little bit of good launch angle days saving his life as far as this home run rate goes. This is still a very high number, but it's below our emergency 4% threshold. But a very gettable pitcher on the mound, especially for a big lefty bat like Vinny Pasquantino. Michael Garcia has been tremendous all season, 300, 357, 474 year so far. A 350 xWOBA suggests there's a little bit more to give under there. 11 home runs, 20 stolen bases. Probably not getting to 2020, but has a shot at a 15-30 kind of a year. 127 WRC plus, no matter how you want to split things. Sal Perez continues to hit the ball hard. 20 home runs for him, a 208 ISO. Monster premium contact numbers. Oh, India is in the lineup. He's just tucked in down here. 3,300, 2,700 for him. Hiding down the bottom of the lineup, just 236, 322, 336. Maybe the demotion gets him going a little bit here. He is a guy who is capable of hitting home runs in the past, stealing the occasional base. Has 5 homers now on the season, just a 100 ISO. Adam Frazier ahead of him, 26-24. Makes a match quality across the same positions for both those guys on FanDuel. Both share second base eligibility on DraftKings. You can go back and forth between the two. Frazier is having the better year, and they're similar talents. John Rave, Kyle Isbell, you could say similar things about the two of them as a pairing. Isbell's been the better of the two, 261, 294, 375, 81 WRC plus. Not that that's good, but it's better than the 175, 277, 301 that Rave's put up. On the Red Sox side, I mentioned Roman Anthony. Again, very, very cheap up top. 41.29 is just too affordable for him for what he's done so far and what the contact suggests, the 368 xWOBA suggests. 51.35, fairly priced Alex Bregman across sites. 14 home runs and 295 plate appearances, tremendous contact, low strikeout, high walk, 295, 373, 533. What's not to like about Alex Bregman against Michael Wacha? Trevor Story in the 3 spot, 10.7% barrels for him and Jarren Duran, who hits cleanup in this version of the lineup. 48.3 and 47.8% hard hits. That's a very solid lefty-righty tandem there as far as just hard hit, well-struck balls. 18 home runs, 19 steals for Story. 12 home runs, 18 steals for Jarren Duran. Just a couple category fillers. 98 WRC plus for Story. I expect him to be over the league average before season's end. Very solid 115 for Jarren Duran. As we said yesterday, less interesting season maybe overall, but still filling a lot of stats. Romy Gonzalez hits the ball very hard against everybody. 16.1% barrels, 59.9% hard hits. Somebody that we still think of, think more, in terms of when we can get him against a lefty. But I think he's very much in play on this site. He's got second base eligibility on both sites. First and third on FanDuel, adds first base on DraftKings to the second base. 4,900, 3,100, a little bit more expensive on DK, but easy to reach on both. Williers all the way down to 3,900 on DraftKings. That is way too cheap. 20 home runs, a 233 ISO, tons of power from the left side. He's 3,100 on the FanDuel slate. Fair price over there, but aggressively cheap on DraftKings. Masataka Yoshida at 3,000 is also very cheap. Guy who can hit the ball very hard, low strikeout, low to medium walk rate. A lot of well-struck balls out of him as well. 26 on FanDuel. Very, very affordable. Hasn't had a great 53 plate appearances in returning to this lineup, but a productive bat overall. Sedan Rafael has hit the ball hard all season long. 14 homers, 15 steals, providing counting stats. A 104 WRC plus this year puts him as a positive player, which he wasn't last year, despite putting up a lot of counting stats. Has had a better version of that year this season. And then Connor Wong at 23, at 22 on FanDuel is cheap, especially where you need the catcher spot. It's a bad year over 116 plate appearances. He's done nothing. 155, 233, 175, a .019 ISO. That's difficult to do. Last year, an excellent 487 plate appearances, a monster, 110 WRC plus, 13 home runs, 283, 33, 425. That's a great year. That was, kind of unexpected. But he's just gotten really, really cheap, and we just need him to be good tonight against Michael Wacha. So not a bad lineup, not a bad option. Basically up and down. Everybody's in play. Solid 9-man from the Red Sox today. I'd say Red Sox bats. Michael Wacha on the other side of that. Royals bats, and then Dustin May. Dustin May's talent rivals most of the guys on this slate, not named Spencer Strider and George Kirby, if he's not better than all those guys. But I just don't trust the depth. SJ says we need this win. Canada keeps winning, and I hate it. I assume Toronto, Canada, I assume we're talking about here. I don't know if you're just watching some soccer final that I'm not aware of or something. I assume you're talking about the Blue Jays. Spencer Strider on the bump for the Braves, 96, 10,000 across sites, 3.71 ERA and 3.74 xFIP. Kind of what he looks like on the surface. 28.2% strikeouts, missing bats aggressively, 14.5% swinging strike rate. He has been excellent. He's given up a little bit of premium contact, little happenstance, still finding his form, I would say. That still very good strikeout rate is 8 or so points off of his typical strikeout rate, which is league leading usually. Yeah, Toronto. That's what I figured. Fellow Yankees fan, I imagine. Old Timers Day is Saturday. I think I was talking about it the other day. First time they're actually playing the game since 2019. And they're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the year 2000 team. So should be a fun one. Got to get out there early. Let's see what that slate looks like, actually. Might be a day where I have to bring the laptop and cover it from Billy's or something. Walk into the game a little bit early, go back out, use my other ticket. See how that goes. Still 3-2. Yanks got the bases loaded, 2 out with Jazz up at the plate. 1-0 pitch. Armstrong on the mound. Bring the 1-0. Ooh, piped a fastball down the middle, and Jazz didn't go for it. 1-1. So Strider looks pretty tremendous. Going up against the Brewers lineup. This version of the Brewers with a couple of smaller samples in there, 19.8% strikeout. But if you look through here, there are some Ks in that little pocket of hitters. At the very top, they're light on strikeout, and at the very bottom, they're light on strikeout. They're power bats, or at least that stretch of them. Yeah, most of their power bats have higher end strikeouts. I do think that this is an outlier, though, from Christian Yelich. 26.8 is awfully high for him. He was 18.4 last year, 22.2 the year before. So call it something in between those typically. Christian Walker home run. He's been getting on a little bit of a roll. Ezra Sanchez has been good for them so far, too. But I do think there are Ks, plenty of strikeouts here for Strider, and he can find them against anybody. You know, Sal Frelick is not going to stop Spencer Strider from finding a strikeout. Yeah, it looks like Armstrong got jazzed there. Changing over the inning. On the other side, Jose Quintana at 77 at 8,000 going up against this version of the Braves. I think you can get there fairly easily. Quintana's more than good enough to get to beat this bunch. Obviously a high danger spot. Great job. Obviously a high danger spot. Both of these lineups are confirmed. That's what I'm grabbing here. But we've seen him succeed time and again over the last few years in spots where we didn't really think we were going to get much. 3.50 ERA, but a 4.79 xFIP. I think that speaks to exactly what I'm saying. 15.9% strikeouts, not good, especially not when contrasted against a 9.4% walk rate. 135 whip, way too many opportunities, just a 6.4% swinging strike rate, a 24.6% CSW. He allows too much premium contact, 9.8% barrels is 0.2 of a percentage point below the line as far as our threshold goes there. 0.9 of a mile an hour of exit velo at 89.1 off the threshold, 41.1% hard hits is over the mark, allowing a very believable 3.23% home runs. This Braves team, though, comes in with a 22.9% strikeout rate. They have not found much success with this version of the active roster against lefties. Again, this version of the active roster is lacking Ronald Acuna. It's lacking Austin Riley, two tremendous right-handed bats. They do have Marcell Ozuna in the lineup today. There's no Drake Baldwin facing the lefty. They're going with the single catcher configuration here. We get Eli White up in the leadoff spot. Ozzie Albies, who's been struggling all season long, is in the 2 spot. This is a diminished and scuffling version of the Braves. They're limping to the finish again this year. So 77 for Quintana, it works. 8,000, it works. Doesn't project great, but who does on this slate outside of the obvious? Given that Strider is A, going to be very popular across both sites, B, has been a little bit more vulnerable to premium contact, if nothing else, to a little bit of home run upside, I think maybe you can fire with some Brewer stacks if you're building a bunch of lineups for sure. They're in your portfolio as a contrarian option going up against whatever Strider's ownership looks like. They're not a great option given his presence on the mound and the fact that he's going to punch out a bunch of these guys, and even when he gets into trouble on the mound, is more than capable of finding a path through it. But I do think given the hit tools, given some of the lower strikeout guys, maybe just a few balls in play, and we're off and running. This team does get on base very effectively up toward the top. So there are good reasons to consider the Brewers. It will probably be pretty low ownership, potentially slate low ownership. Sal Frelick at 42-32 in play, 296, 353, 412. Difficult to argue with his ability to get on first base. 13.1% strikeouts this year. Just doesn't hit the ball particularly hard, but a 118 WRC plus, an excellent table center. You can see the reality of his situation, though. A 307 xWOB under the surface does speak to the fact that the average will probably come down. So would the on base, if you give it another 400 plate appearances on top of these, those next 400 probably wouldn't be as good. Leadoff single for whoever that was. Ezekiel Duran again. He's been on base all game. William Contreras in the 2 spot at 44-31, 9 home runs on the year, 254, 352, 371 slash line. Another guy who's been getting on base like crazy, is hitting the ball fairly hard, but not finding the barrels, not finding the power output success that he used to. Just a 117 ISO. Has a 107 WRC plus, though, doesn't strike out, drawing a 13% walk rate against his 18.1% strikeouts. There's a lot to like about William Contreras on a short slate, especially where you have to play the catcher spot. He's a little bit cheaper than whoever it was from the first game. Shea Langoliers is at 5,000. So a little bit of a discount, but he's facing Spencer Strider, so I don't know that it's necessarily a discount. Isaac Collins, crazy cheap at 34.27 for a guy slashing 285, 385, 427. He creating runs 34% better than the average player. 7 home runs and 12 stolen bases over that stretch. Striking out 22.5, walking 12.8, perfectly efficient there. Doesn't necessarily hit the ball all that hard. 38.6% hard hits against a 5.8% barrel rate. Not tremendous. Not exactly drawing a major home run mark there, but cheap second base eligibility on FanDuel. better than just another outfielder, I'd say, especially on a slate like this over on DraftKings at 34. Not a bad little 3-man to get you started there. That's 4,000 on the nose a piece. You obviously want Yelich, and you probably take some Andrew Vaughn with that and just go right off the top. If you did that little 5-man there, 4,020 a man to target Spencer Strider. Good luck. Yelich is Yelich. You go there pretty much 80+% of your Brewers lineups. Get to a lot of Christian Yelich when you go Brewers. 4,800, 3,500. He's hit 21 homers. He's stolen 15 bases, 122 WRC plus. The ISO at 184, you could say, could be a little bit higher given how hard and how consistently he hits the ball. I would blame some of that on a little bit loss of frequency of contact given the strikeouts being up a little this year. Would probably be finding a few additional extra base hits just along the way and looking a little bit better if he wasn't striking out quite as much. But it's been another very, very good year. Vaughn is still 3,300 on DraftKings. I feel like that price has gone down over the last few days since I started yelling about it. Just to reiterate, since it's a short slate and we're only 55 minutes into the show, Andrew Vaughn, since joining the Brewers, is now slashing, including the last couple of games since we last spoke about this. In 85 plate appearances with the Brewers, Andrew Vaughn is now slashing 370, 435, 671 with a 204 WRC plus. So he's been 104% better than the average player. This goes back to July 7th, so almost exactly a full month. He's hit 6 home runs. He's scored 13 runs. He's driven in 26. Neither of those is predictive at all and could go away completely depending on what everybody around him is doing. But those are monster numbers. If you look at your season-long league, I guarantee you that Andrew Vaughn is a top 10 player over the last month. Also just striking out 12.9%, walking 11.8% over that stretch, a 301 ISO over that stretch. Is it going to hold at that level? No, of course not. It's Andrew Vaughn. We got to be realistic about this. But is that Andrew Vaughn paying off the best version of himself, the pedigree that we know is in there? Yeah, absolutely. And they have not taken notice over on DraftKings at all. The overall numbers, sure, maybe they're ugly. Maybe it keeps people away. That would be the hope, but it's no secret that he's been very, very good. And again, he's been hitting the ball squarely his entire career. He's just been capitalizing on it more with Milwaukee for whatever reason, maybe a slight adjustment. In seasons past, I pulled this up yesterday. Last year, over 619 plate appearances, 19 homers, just a 156 ISO. You can argue that that's not a great year, and it's not, but was somewhat effective on a terrible White Sox team. The year before, Crater runs 3% better than average, just a 171 ISO, but did get over 20 home runs in 615 plate appearances, had an effective slash line. 17 homers the year before that with an even more effective slash line. Crater runs 13% better than average over 555 plate appearances. I would say that's 2.5 pretty good seasons out of a kid that was picked 3rd overall and is growing into himself. He's 27. He just turned 27 this year, just coming into his prime. A lot of upside there for the money. Also not expensive enough on FanDuel, but at least they've kind of noticed. Blake Perkins at 32, a.k.a. 100 cheaper than Andrew Vaughn. Over 54 plate appearances, been moderately effective, a 118 WRC plus, a 224 ISO, a pair of home runs. Not that they've come on much premium contact, but he hasn't been bad. He's drawn a few walks along the way as well. Bryce Turan can get on base, steal you a bag, 9.1% walk rate, 20 stolen bases with a 341 on base, a 106 WRC plus. I kind of wish they had slotted him in just down here where Joey Ortiz is. I feel like he'd be more valuable there. He has hit the ball fairly hard this year, especially for him, 45.1% hard hit, 6.3% walk, pushed way up over the last 2 seasons. He's found 8 home runs. He's driven in some. He scored some runs. It's been a very good season. 41, probably not expensive enough. 31, same deal at second base. Good positioning. I just wish I could wrap him around directly to those guys rather than using him to try and finish off a stack from there down. Siegler at 25, at 21 on FanDuel. Not much in that small sample. Taking a look at everything today. A former Yankees farmhand. 433 double-A plate appearances last year as a 25-year-old. That doesn't really work. 234, 350, 398, a 165 ISO, 12 home runs. Did steal 29 bases, had a 122 WRC+. It's not a bad double-A season, but he was 25, so needs to be kept in perspective. Mix and match quality, let's say. Affordable at third base, but not an ideal guy to put at the position necessarily. 21 at second base probably works a little better on FanDuel. Has odd catcher eligibility on there over there as well. And then, or odd because it doesn't matter, right? And then Joey Ortiz at 24, 26, mix and match quality guy on both sides, but you don't necessarily want him at short on DraftKings. 7 home runs, 10 steals, and 381 plate appearances, just a 67 WRC+, just kind of a spot filler at the bottom of the lineup. He is low strikeout, low walk, so you get a lot of frequency of contact, and then you're just kind of rolling the dice on what happenstance looks like with him. I would say second base eligibility on FanDuel for 26 is also probably better for him. Eli White costs just 25-24 at the top of the Braves lineup going up against Jose Quintana. He is definitely a gettable pitcher. 254, 294, 421 season with 7 homers, 7 stolen bases for White so far. Getting an opportunity just with everybody ailing in this regular lineup. So far this season, has completely scuffled against left-handed pitching. 219, 269, 342 with a 123 ISO and a 66 WRC+. That's only 78 plate appearances. For his career, White is terrible against lefties. He's not particularly good against righties either. But 177, 261, 270 with a .093 ISO and a 50 WRC+. And that's who they picked to lead off today. That's not a good decision at all. Against righties, that's in 264 plate appearances against lefties, in 406 against righties. So this is essentially one full season of numbers. 234, 284, 388 hitter with an 85 WRC+. So like I said, not exactly a lot better. But that's a really bad option in the leadoff role. Ozzie Albies switch hitter, slashing just 224, 303, 325 this year, just a 101 WRC+. I would wager that would be a better option to have led off. Ozzie this season, I hate how they switch it. For switch hitters, when you pull up the splits, they reverse which one's on top. It drives me nuts. More power this season against righties. Slashing 244, 272, 303. With a 59 WRC+ against lefties. He's been terrible against lefties this year, too. For the career, in 1,071 plate appearances as a righty against a lefty, has 42 of his 146 home runs. And is a career 325, 351, 534 hitter with a 208 ISO and a 135 WRC+. That's career for Ozzie Albies against lefties. I get why he's hitting second with those numbers, and that's, I would generally be saying, yeah, that makes more sense. But you could easily have just put Marcell Ozuna, Sean Murphy in the 2 spot and not have Eli White leading off here. And put those excellent Ozzie Albies numbers historically in the leadoff role there. Or you could have none of those guys lead off and just throw Jerickson Profar up there like you've been doing with a waste of a space lately. Either way you slice it, those guys are at least mix and match caliber up top, but I think that those splits career-wise speak for themselves. Ozzie is the more appealing option up there. Overall, for this terrible season, too, I will say 15.8% strikeout, 9.5% walk rate. Once we push that up toward the top of the lineup and get it in front of Ozuna, Olsen, Murphy, and the power, that becomes more appealing just in the idea that he's putting the ball in play. Olsen for 55 for 35, 18 home runs this year. His power's been out. I was laughing about it yesterday in a way too long text message to the Dynasty League. But in the month since I traded for them, that was also July 7th, Lubob slashing 344, 423, 516 going into last night with 3 home runs, 16 runs, and 13 RBIs in 71 plate appearances. And last night went 1 for 4 with his 4th home run. Matt Olson and Seiya Suzuki combined, the guys that I traded for in a package that included Lou Bob going the other way, had 2 home runs going into last night with 21 runs, 15 RBIs, over 196 plate appearances over the last month. So that's not good. Both those guys have been a little bit rough lately. Suzuki hit a home run today. He's been good. Hopefully Olsen gets off the schneid a little bit. Emac also got Tyler Locklear in that deal. He also got Will Warren, the rights to Bryce Miller, Shea Whitcomb, a 5 and a 6 round draft pick next year. So far, I'd say Emac is winning that trade, and he got a lot of flack for it. Anyway, all that is to say, Matt Olson in any situation, even against the lefty, even against or especially against the lefty like this, fire away. That's an excellent, excellent upside power bat. 500 okay plate appearances. Plenty of indications that they could come roaring back to life over August and September the rest of the way. Just a 189 ISO. I would expect that still to get over 200, given that he's got a 14.2% barrel, a 52.8% hard hit. Marcell Ozuna, 15 home runs on the season, otherwise kind of down across the board. Does have a 367 on base and a 376 xWOB under the surface. Has created runs even with the dip, 18% better than average by WRC+. 10.6% barrels, 46.7% hard hits. There's a lot to like, and seems like we may be hopefully trending back toward health. Sean Murphy at 33.29, a little bit cheap for a catcher with 16 home runs, a 245 ISO over just 285 plate appearances, 14.3% barrel. Sean Murphy's an incredible power hitter at the catcher position. Take advantage of the cheap price against Jose Quintana. Honestly, that is 3,300 is way too low where you have to play that position. On a slate like this, that's a bargain. Jurickson Profar at 39.29. You guys know I'm not a fan. Hasn't done anything to make us fans so far this season. 102 WRC plus over the 147 plate appearances so far. Drawn a few walks, not necessarily striking out, but not particularly hitting the ball hard. Has managed to hit 4 home runs, stole 2 bases. Just a 293 xWOBA, 160 ISO. There's really not that much to like. Mix and match quality guy. Michael Harris is a much better player than he's been this year. Has hit 9 home runs, stolen 12 bases. 70 WRC plus, really disappointing season. Moderately capable batted ball numbers, but those aren't good. They're down hard for him. Nacho at 21 at 22 on FanDuel with multi-position is kind of interesting. He's a kid that they expect that hit tool to round into form. Just might not be fully cooked. He's just kind of here because other guys are absent and hurt. So I don't know that we get much out of him, but he does have ability. And he's very, very cheap down lineup. He'll be very low owned. And Nick Allen is here for defense. Strider, Braves, Brewers. Well, no. Strider, Braves, Quintana, Brewers at the bottom. Mariners lineup is in. Neither of these are. White Sox is also not. Disclafani, 5,500, 6,500 in his 25 2/3, including some bulk relief work. Just a pair of starts. Pitching to a respectable 21.4% strikeout rate. I said respectable, not good. 4.91 ERA, a 4.56 xFIP, 8% walks. Does have a nice little 12.1% swinging strike rate. The Stuff Plus is graded out less than a point better than average, but slightly better than average. But I think the issue here is going to be just short starts and unlikely to put up a good number in his short innings against the very good Padres team. Just 2 1/3 against Oakland, or against the Athletics, rather. It's been a while since I've said Oakland. Back on the first, give up 4 earned runs to 16 hitters, walked 3, struck out 0, allowed a home run. 4 innings on the 25th in a bulk relief appearance, 3 innings in bulk relief on the 20th prior to that. Just hasn't really fully been stretched out. Maybe we get to 5 as an absolute ceiling here, but it's probably 5 without a ton of quality going with it. Yeah, Elastic nails it. I could have just said that and just dropped the mic and shut the show off. Kirby Strider, figure out your bats. Yeah. Larry's saying people always flip on dump trades, a lot of complaining. I mean, look, our league, it's a dynasty league. Everybody gets it. There's only so many places where you can deal, and you're dealing with contracts and everything. So everybody understands why the trades are made, but there's still a reasonable amount of flack when some of us make trades, regardless of what quality's in it. But I felt like that deal in particular, I give up a lot, and more than EMAC getting credit for making a good deal, I want credit for having given up a lot. I don't want to be criticized. It makes people less likely to deal with me if they hear that somebody got a bad deal from me when I'm giving out great deals like that. That was the point of my text message last night. At the end of it was literally like that long on my screen. And at the end of all that, I said, so lesson being, always accept my trade offers. Anyway, Discofani, years past, 18.9% strikeout over 99 and 2/3, 18.1 over just 5 starts and 19 innings 2 years ago. Didn't pitch last year, or 3 years ago, didn't pitch last year. This year in these limited outings does have a 5.36% home run rate to take into account. That's only a couple few home runs because it's a very, very small sample, but it's also not nothing. Has allowed an 8.1% barrel, but these numbers aren't bad. The hard hit, the exit velo, and there's a little bit more sample on those than just the batted ball events. So you got to take into account all the different numbers here, but I just don't think we're getting enough innings, and it's a low strikeout, high quality Padres team is drawing the highest implied total on the board at a 5.21. So you're probably not getting there even with the price discount, and you probably don't need it to get to just whatever combination of bats today anyway. Nestor at 69, at 67. This is a total wild card. I really don't know what the innings are going to look like. I really don't know what the quality is going to look like. I do still think a lot of several hitters in this Diamondbacks lineup and not just the top two guys. And I really have never thought all that much of Nestor, even going back to his Yankee days. He had a couple effective seasons, no doubt about it. But like I was saying before, it's much more with him about just keeping guys off balance and throwing a bunch of junk and mixing pitches up and changing your mix and changing your arm angle. And he's more tricky. He's a crafty lefty, as they say, than he is, really truly good. And that was him 3-4 years ago. This guy, I don't know what we're going to get. Back on April 3rd against Cincinnati, he went 6 innings, 1 hitter, struck out 6, walked 2. His only other start was March 29th. That was against the Yankees. Homecoming to start the season. He lasted 2 innings. He faced 17 Yankees. He gave up 8 earned runs, 6 hits, 5 home runs in that game. If you remember back at the beginning of the year when everybody was worried that the Yankees were cheating with torpedo bats and so on and so forth. Remember torpedo bats? Those came and went in about 5 minutes. In the minors, 5 2/3 on the 24th against the White Sox affiliate. Just 1 earned run, 4 hits, struck out 9 in that game. 5 1/3 against the Pirates AAA affiliate in his rehab start before that one. Just 1 earned run, 2 hits, struck out 3, hit a batter, walked 2. Effectively wild. Again, I do think 6 is probably in the cards for Nestor because they don't really care. Who cares if he blows out his arm? Yeah, they went and got him for the stretch run here, but not exactly saying much. So 69, 67. Yeah, very much on the board. Not appealing. Talent-wise, rivals Quintana, I would say. Ugly options, up and down. Padres bats. It was pointed out on some broadcast or another that I caught a snippet of last night that it's been a minute since Fernando Tatis has hit a home run as well. I wanted to pull that up. Wow, yeah. Tatis has not hit a home run since July 10th. That is nearly a month. That can't be right. I mean, the July 10th thing is right. The other thing that came up was not right. Why is that not showing me the totals? The hell, man? For some reason, it's not the shift click is not totaling up his game log over that stretch for some reason. A lot of hits, productivity, a lot of runs scored over that stretch, but the power's definitely been out a little bit here for Fernando. Still very much in play at the top of the board against Anthony DeSclafani, though. 5,800, 3,700 price discount slightly, I would say, maybe given the slight scuffles. A 174 ISO is indicative of that slide, just 17 home runs, but those go with 22 steals, a tremendous slash line, a 127 WRC plus, and all the belief in the world that we return to form pretty quickly. Luis Ariz at 41-29, solid hit tool, can get involved, get on base, set the table for the guys who are significantly better than him for DFS in this lineup. Is a little point creation machine there, but is just hitting in the wrong spot in this lineup basically all season. Manny Machado at 56-37, 20 home runs, 10 stolen bases, very solid slash line for him, a 144 WRC plus to lead the team, 202 ISO for Manny, 13.1% barrel, 53.3% hard hit. What's been bad about Manny Machado this year? Just a tremendous season. Strikeouts are down, walks are up. If you need another positive indicator, just been absolutely great. 56-37, more than fair. Jackson Merrill, 44-32. Every time I say something like that, I hear George Carlin in the back of my head. He was more than happy. 44-32 for Jackson Merrill, 8 home runs on the board, just a 151 ISO and a disappointing 347 plate appearances. That's an adequate year, though. I mean, those aren't bad numbers over that stretch. It's just down for what we thought he was going to be this year based on what he was last year. But he has a 362 xWOBA that tells us he's very much still that player. 11.9% barrels, 41% hard hits, strikes out 21.3%. That's up a little bit year over year, but the walks are up too. It's a very good player hiding in there. Xander Bogaerts continues to hit. 8th home run came last night. Has a 338 on base, a 107 WRC plus. Pushed the xWOBA number up to 338 on some better contact of late. This is a very good player hiding in there as well for 43 for 3,000 at shortstop or second base on FanDuel. Ryan O'Hearn at 4,200, 3,000 has 13 home runs, just carrying forward with a very strong season, continually getting on base. Solid on base numbers just up and down this lineup. Even with that 317 at the bottom, that's an average on base for this 9-man projected lineup of 346. And those are healthy sample sizes for everyone in the lineup. This is a really good, just opportunity creation team. Everybody's got it outside of Furman at the bottom. Everybody's got a really strong WRC plus too. 124 average WRC plus. Ramon Laureano for just 3,600 for 34 on FanDuel. Dramatically different pricing. FanDuel's got it right. DraftKings is not paying attention to the year that Ramon Laureano's having. 16 home runs on the board at 249 ISO, premium contact galore, and we're charging just 3,600. Take advantage. That is a major discount over there. Yes, it's the best he's been in several seasons, but he's kept it up over a full half of a season now. I'm a believer, and he's always been a talented guy. Cronenworth, mix and match quality guy, always has been, gets on base effectively, creates runs effectively, just not great at any one thing, but okay at everything. And then Freddie Thurman, spot filler as a cheap catcher at worst. On the bottom, Diamondbacks, very much in play as well against Nestor. Like I said, not a huge believer in the Nestor spot here. If I can get the Diamondbacks at any kind of less ownership than they ought to be at, I will definitely fire shares at that. Really like the upside of, obviously, at the top, Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, 2 superstars, 21 home runs, 22 home runs, or stars, if we want to be specific. 257 ISO for Marte, a 293 ISO for Corbin Carroll. Those guys are outrageous. 156 and 133 WRC plus marks. I've been talking about Geraldo Perdomo as far as his spot in the lineup. He's a very effective option in that 3 spot. It's just given their options overall, I think maybe they can shuffle the deck and maybe get him into a more effective spot as a table setter rather than as somebody that you want to kind of have a dual role in the 3 spot there. But either way, very good option. 4,500, 3,400 at shortstop, fills the position at an effective price. 10.6% strikeout rate this year, draws a ton of walks at a 13.4% clip, has always been good at getting to first base. This year, a 379 on base, has scored a ton of runs, driven in a bunch as well. 17 stolen bases on the year, 127 WRC plus, just a really strong season and probably not expensive enough on DraftKings. Lourdes Gurriel hit the fastest pitch ever hit for a home run since 2008 in the StatCast era just last night. Told you that bat wasn't dead. 14 home runs on the season, just a 163 ISO, but obviously tremendous bat speed. 13.2% strikeout rate this season to go against just a 5.8% walk rate. So you get a lot of high-end contact out of Lourdes Gurriel. Significantly better than what his numbers would say this year, but not having a completely terrible season either as far as the DFS things, the 56 ribbies, the counting stats that he's provided. So there is definitely upside in going to him in your outfield, especially if we're already stacking Diamondbacks. That's a really appealing bat. Tyler Locklear, who, again, as mentioned, EMAC picked up in that trade, and he's now the starting first baseman for the D-backs. 2,400, 2,300 across sites, a week, 21 plate appearances, but he was tremendous in AAA this season, has good numbers and good prospect pedigree, is probably way too cheap in the heart of this Diamondbacks lineup. I expect that kid to hit. James McCann, mix and match quality catcher with some upside. Pair of home runs in 63 chances this year, a 119 WRC plus, 47.2% hard hit, a little bit of a return to form in the tiny sample over 63 chances. Blaze Alexander's got a hit tool that he hasn't really flashed yet this year. Connor Kaiser is a guy toward the bottom of this lineup that I'm about to pull up on Fangraphs and tell you about as soon as I click on his name and he loads the page here. And yeah, he's 28 years old. That's why I don't really know his name. Ooh, that's not a good year. Age 28 season, this season in AAA, 248 plate appearances, has a 27.8% strikeout against the 13.3% walk, which on its own wouldn't be completely tragic. That's a lot of strikeouts, though. But his slashing just 236, 346, 423, has just 6 home runs, a 188 ISO. So the strikeout to walk numbers of a 3 true outcomes type guy without the power, which doesn't give you anything. That's a pretty bad player. Quad A type player at the best in Connor Kaiser at the bottom of the lineup. And then Jorge Barosa, 32 plate appearances for him. Hasn't really been that effective. There he is. He's just 24. He had 6 home runs, 9 steals in 408 plate appearances in AAA this year. Was slashing 300, 384, 436. Light hitter, but low strikeout, high walk. Mid-teens home runs in lower levels of the minors. Hit 12 with 22 stolen bases back in AA in 2022, just as a 21-year-old as well. Not particularly highly ranked organizationally and not at all nationally ranked as far as prospect rankings go. Tiny guy, Jose Altuve kind of guy, 5'6", 165. I would say, but also maybe a little bit more interesting than, say, Connor Kaiser down the bottom of the lineup, but mix and match if he's in the lineup at all. You can see what his home run number is. A lot less Altuve-like in that department. Padres bats, Diamondbacks bats, Nestor Cortez. Yeesh. I don't think we can get the Sclafani. Come on. Last game up. Still just the Mariners lineup in. No White Sox yet. Jonathan Cannon, the other probably less than playable pitcher on this slate. 4.77 ERA, 4.75 xFIP. A lot of premium contact allowed. Over the threshold in exit velocity, over the threshold by a lot in hard hit rate. We are 1/10 of a percentage point below in barrel rate. A lot of fly balls. 3.85% home runs. Slightly below the emergency number, but probably lucky to be there. 1.41 whip. Just way too many guys on base. Doesn't strike anybody out. Doesn't find any swinging strike or throw strikes in general. 5,800. Between him and DeSclafani, I do think he's got the better chance to get through a handful of innings, but not by much. And he's a lower strikeout potential guy. And it's a better Mariners. Well, opponent-wise, they're probably tied. And the Pods come in at a better implied total. George Kirby, on the other hand, 99, a little bit discounted on DraftKings. 92, a little bit discounted on FanDuel for his talent. 4.13 ERA, but a 3.40 xFIP is the much more real number for him. 25.2% strikeout against 6.1% walk, inducing an 11.7% swinging strike rate. Has given up a little bit of premium contact in the results department. Over the line there for exit velo, 42.9% hard hits, just an 8.1% barrel and non-tragic launch angle. 3% home runs is not a crazy number, but it's a little bit up for him from 2.83 last year, from 2.91 the year before. In the ongoing sense, maybe something to watch. Strikeouts up slightly, walks up a little bit as well. We'll see what that mix ends up looking like. Historically, a very low walk rate, 3% last year, 2.5% over 190 innings in both seasons, 31 starts and 33 starts. Tremendous strikeout to walk pitcher when everything's going right. Either way, though, even with the increase in walks, just a 1.13 whip, limits opportunities, capable of punching his way out of any trouble he gets into, and he's facing the White Sox at a sub-3 implied total. Nothing not to like about this spot outside of probably going to be ludicrously popular on this slate. I think it probably makes sense to take the better Brewers against Spencer Strider more aggressively than the White Sox against George Kirby as your contrarian team. That's probably the way that everybody's thinking. So if you want to be contrarian among the contrarians, then you go White Sox. Across 150 lineups, that makes sense to do a few times. Across 20 lineups, maybe once or twice. It's a mixer. On a slate like this, it can definitely pay some dividends. Odds are, though, even if Kirby goes pop at the top of the projections, the top of the price tier among pitchers, doesn't give you what you need for him to succeed, it's still less than likely that the White Sox are going to put up a monster score that you're going to want for DFS. Maybe one or two guys got there with, the home run that broke his day, but it's still a low-end stack overall. But you do have that contrarian angle. You do get the ability to target quite a bit of public ownership if you go to White Sox bats. Just from that angle, they're at least playable. But that sub-3 total should be glaring. Mike Tauchman's a great on-base option to start things off. 369 on base, but a difficult pitcher to get on base against. 130 WRC plus for Tauchman. Been very, very effective for this team so far this year. A cheap Chase Madroth, second base eligible still, 3,300, 2,600, has shortstop as well. 11 stolen bases, is still getting on at a 330 clip. He's had an effective rookie season so far, but he's lost a little bit of luster around the edges as far as what that hit tool looks like. Very low strikeout, drawing his walks. He's not uninteresting, but he needs to put it back together as far as a little bit more consistency, finding that 280 to 300 kind of average, pushing that on base, pushing that WRC plus back up, taking advantage of his ability to steal bases. Andrew Benintendi's just not the hitter that he might look like with the 14 home runs, the 200 ISO. Those are results that came in a bunch early in the season. Overall, 231, 299, 431. Just not a great bat. Does have the 11.8% barrel. Last year, that was 6.3. The year before, that was 2.9. 37.6% hard hit rate is already not that great, but that is up from 34.1 last year, 26.8 the year before. Effectively low strikeout, medium walk guy. Not completely lost at the plate, certainly, but I would argue that, 36 is fine on DraftKings. 3,000 is probably more than I want to pay typically, and especially against George Kirby in this ballpark for Andrew Benintendi. Lou Bob at 43 at 31. I just read you his numbers over the last month a little while ago. Up to 12 home runs and 29 steals on the season. It's been a bad year, admittedly. For a complete sellout for this player to admit that. I'm a big fan. Remain a big fan here. He's their best player. Easy to reach if you're going White Sox. He's the one-off that I'm drawing from this team if I'm drawing a one-off in a contrarian way, or choosing to target George Kirby shares with an opposing bat, let's say, on a short slate. I'm not doing that, but that would be the guy. Colson Montgomery at 4,000 to 3,100, having a pretty decent debut season. 97 plate appearances, been effective at 256, 302, 567. 8 home runs in the small sample is very, very good. 15.4% barrels, a solid 311 ISO so far. A lot of it is real. The kid is supposed to be very good. I would say the homer pace is probably going to slow as time goes on, but the output has been inarguably excellent so far. Edgar Ghetto, Kyle Teal. If we get the dual catcher configuration, obviously you get jammed up with that on DraftKings. You don't really have a go-to first baseman on this team on FanDuel. You have Lennon Sosa also has that first base eligibility, but we don't worry about that with Andrew Vaughn gone from this team now. So you can double up those guys on the FanDuel slate. They are both worthwhile. Ghetto slashing 277, 345, 377 with a 104 WRC plus, and Teal over 124 plate appearances. Pair of home runs, 267, 366, 381, a 113 WRC plus. Two high-end prospect rated catchers. So at least interesting to go back and forth with across any White Sox lineups that you're building on DK. On FanDuel, if you built one and you had both those guys, I wouldn't call you nuts. Those two with Lou Bob and Costa Montgomery in the two spots before them in this projected version of the lineup makes sense. I do like Lennon Sosa. He hits the ball very hard, as we talked about yesterday. 12 home runs. He's also slashing 281, 308, 439 in one of his better years. 9% barrels, 42.5% hard hits. It's a capable enough guy. Last year, 6.1, 41.2 in those categories. Year before, a few more barrels, but less frequent hard hits. Again, 3.4% walk rate, so you get at least fairly consistent high caliber contact. Like him better than Josh Rojas at 22-23, but Rojas quite a bit cheaper. Sub Mendoza, sub 250 on base, a 41 WRC plus though. The Mariners have been tremendous all season long. No reason not to go there outside of really difficult to reach pricing. Those DraftKings prices are high. That 5-man average is 54.60 now. FanDuel, not much better. Top four, I guess actually that's okay on those guys. 32, 33, 31. Puts you at 34.75. That's a little bit more in reach, I think. If you went like that route, left out the Cal Raleigh share, you're at 33 and a quarter. That's easy to reach. Lot of high quality bats to throw at Jonathan Cannon, who allows nothing but premium contact. Excellent opportunity to fire away with Mariners. They're going to be very popular here. Does not lead me to any shares of Jonathan Cannon. Just the fact that the Mariners are going to be popular. It would just be about him being a cheap free square at the price, and you would need the other top end pitchers to go bust. But all about Mariners here. Randy Arozarena at 5,000, 3,200. A little cheap on FanDuel, getting on base at a 351 clip. Dynamite option in this leadoff spot now. Hits the ball very hard. 22 homers, 21 steals, a 135 WRC plus. Just an excellent up and down season, over 485 plate appearances for him. Real return to form for Randy Arozarena this year. Cal Raleigh's just been one of the best players in baseball, full stop. 42 homers, 12 stolen bases. Ridiculous catcher numbers. Julio Rodriguez at 53, 33, 20 homers, 21 steals for him. 181 ISO and climbing. 112 WRC plus and climbing. Second half is already looking pretty tremendous. Josh Naylor at 47 at 31. A little bit affordable among all these high price players anyway. 13 homers, 19 steals for him, a 355 on base, 121 WRC plus. Nothing to dislike about that. Lefty bat to get into the mix against Cannon here. Joanny Suarez at 6,000 at 3,700 has 37 home runs. Hit one just the other day. I mentioned, does have a little bit more challenge as far as hitting in their home park than he did out in the desert, but a primo power bat. And he's having a much better just overall year this year than he was in that challenge season. Part of that was playing a lot of home games in Seattle 2 years ago. Dominic Canzone, 2,800, 2,600, 7 home runs on the board for him, a 296, 351, 500 slash line, carrying a 204 ISO. Monster premium contact numbers, 14.7% barrels and 50.5% hard hits. When are we going to get on board and start believing in Dominic Canzone down the bottom of the lineup here? He's super cheap at 28, at 26 on FanDuel. When I checked earlier in the day, he was in the low single digits for ownership projection against Jonathan Cannon. He's the home run pick of the day, 9.10 in the home run model today. JP Crawford, 3,000, 2,700. Still getting on base effectively, even though he's down to 355 overall after a cold stretch. Still at 355 overall, I should say. Still a really interesting option from down lineup now that he's taken that demotion, and just use him as a wraparound back up to the top. I would include him and Arozarena in a stack, use him as a way to get cheaper. Fill shortstop with a still interesting player from there. Can't have them all. But like 1, 2, let's say we skip Cal. We can take one of those catcher discounts, maybe even from the other side. Like 3, 4. And we'll take Eugenio at 6,000. We'll probably have to get off of one of those spots. 48 a man. It's more affordable than the top, but that's still pretty expensive. Let's say we skip. Let's not go to Randy in the leadoff role. So we'll look at Crawford. I mean, he's only really effective in a wraparound sense. All right, so we'll leave Randy. Let's just dump Gino and take Canzone. And now we're at 41.60, and that's gotten a lot more interesting. If you wanted to take Julio out and go with either of the $6,000 players, even putting Cal in there, that's 43.60. So again, significantly more affordable while still getting 3 pieces of the top 5 that we want. Today's home run pick of the day in Dominic Canzone, and then a guy who can easily reset the table and 3 out of 5 times around this lineup be on base ahead of the stars and the mashers up at the top. So there are definitely ways to get to 5-man stacks of Mariners despite those very high prices up top. Cole Young at the bottom, even cheaper, obviously, at 21.25. It's been effective over 175 plate appearances. Just a 96 WRC plus, but a 250, 322, 353 when we're just looking for a guy to maybe reach first base for us. That's fine if you just need to cheapen things up even further. It's not super appealing, but it works. George Kirby, Mariners bats, both things in a big, big way. And then probably White Sox bats over Jonathan Cannon, but that's very close, and neither one of those things is appealing at all. And that is it. Short slate today, but got a decently long show up there. Spencer Strider, George Kirby, significantly offset at the top of your pitching board. Also in price, but very much so in projection, in ceiling. If you can get to them both at 96.99, absolutely should do so. I imagine you're capable of doing that today with some of the pricing that we saw. Probably have to get a little creative. Everybody else is cheaper and for good cause. I would say Springs is kind of on a little bit of an island there. That FanDuel price is a little too high, but the DraftKings price is definitely significantly too low. So you can take advantage there, and I hope that you would get him a little bit lower owned over here. It's a good spot for him against that mediocre Washington lineup. Oh, there you go. Contract signed. Roman Anthony, 8-year extension with a club option for 2034. So 8 years plus a club option, 9th year. I believe it was $130 million for the flat 8. It's a good deal on both sides. You see a lot of young players taking those now, just buying out their arbitration years. Makes sense. Keeps the player rewarded, but maybe affordable if he becomes the superstar that they expect him to be. If he's just a star, it's the correct pricing for those future years that he would have gotten to in ARB anyway. It's a good deal. Good for the Red Sox. They'll probably trade him in 3 years. Nestor Cortez, Michael Wacha, Dustin May, and Jose Quintana are the next tier here. And as I said a few times, I think there's certainly more faith in Michael Wacha than any of those 4 guys. There's probably more ceiling on him as well. While the medians rival one another, I would say he steps forward more in ceiling, but also in a tough matchup against the Red Sox. And then Quintana is probably number 2 in ceiling among those 4 guys. Just on the virtue that we've got a little bit more faith that they're going to go 6. May is challenged to get through 6 innings in a lot of his appearances. We don't know how the Red Sox are going to handle him, and he's going up against a low strikeout Royals team. Nestor, I haven't got a clue what he's going to look like. I gave him his full medium projection. I let it fly, but I don't think there's much there against, a still good Diamondbacks team. 67, 69 puts him in play for sure. He's very affordable, but really, really challenged to see much beyond what's right there, if that. And then Cavalli, very difficult to see success against a very good A's team. Cannon, pretty hard no against Seattle outside of just wildly contrarian shares that are unowned for a good reason. And the same deal with DeSclafani with an even bigger exclamation point that you don't want DeSclafani. He's just not going to pitch enough. Yeah, there you go, Larry. Larry points out one that works out for the player. I don't know what Michael Harris's deal is, but yeah, obviously, given his last 2 seasons, his number would have come down significantly from whatever he signed for. And you see a lot of those, most of those get cashed in by the top end guys. What did he sign for? 8 for 72. That's still an okay deal, honestly. They've got him secured through those future years. Through 2030, his age 29 season, he maxes out at $12 million that year. So that isn't bad. That gets him out to 67.8 million of his deal. And then it's actually 2 club options, one for 15 and then one for 20. And that's what I imagine his underperformance is actually going to end up costing him now, is those 2 big years at the end, his age 30 and 31 seasons. If he can manage to wrangle free agency, by then though, and maybe correct his numbers over the next couple of seasons, he's got plenty of time to do it. But that was what they bought out ARB +3. He had ARB through 2027, his age 26 season, and then 27, 28, and 29 years, 2028 through 2030. They got fairly cheap, I would say. Even, not obviously for this year what he's done, but a minor improvement upon this year's numbers, and you're still not bad at those prices, 10, and 12 mil for a young player who can fill categories. It's not terrible. But yeah, I would say that he wouldn't have gotten to that number in arbitration this year. Anyway, gang, 5:40 on the clock, about an hour till start time. Reminder, this is a earlier start. Is it 6:40 or 6:45? 6:45 start time for this slate. Everything will be up on the site momentarily for the currently confirmed lineups. We're still waiting on it. Looks like the Padres and the White Sox. Rest of them will be up there momentarily. All of the game-by-game snapshots are up there for you guys to look through. Again, if you haven't been to rotoscouts lately, you get access to this screen as a screenshot with the projected lineups, the projections, all the stats, exactly what you see here, just in a less dynamic form as far as scrolling on it, for every single game for you guys to go through and do your thing and act out your own version of the show. Imagine what I might be saying about spots throughout the day, and then come hear me say exactly that later on. Really appreciate all you guys. Hit the like button on your way out the door. Check out rotoscouts.com. Subscribe over there for under $1 a day. Weekly, monthly, quarterly plans are available. Includes anything that hits that website. All the baseball projections, home run model numbers, power index, top stacks, pitcher projections, those game-by-game snapshots. Football. We've got a preseason slate tomorrow. 3 games. Supposed to have lunch with my mom. We'll see whether we get to it. No guarantees for preseason, but every single regular season football game is covered under the same $1 a day. Basketball, hockey right around the corner. No time like the present to check it out. Free Discord is linked down there as well. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. When you do, share the results at rotoscouts on Twitter or in that free Discord. Come join the community. You don't need to be a member or a subscriber or anything to jump into Discord. Hopefully we see you around there. Either way, we'll see you tomorrow for or maybe we won't. It's a weird Thursday slate. I got to figure out how it's going to work. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow at the latest Friday. Good luck, gang. See you.